At 99 years old, Dick Van Dyke is still smiling, dancing, and charming fans. But behind his joyful career are deep wounds he's carried for decades. In a rare and honest moment, he opened up about 6 people who deeply hurt him during his time in Hollywood. Some were friends, some were legends, and one, he could never forgive himself. Mary Tyler Moore, the love that never was. Dick and Mary were a perfect pair on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Their chemistry was magical, but behind the scenes, things were complicated. Dick had a serious crush on Mary. He never acted on it. He was married and she had her own life. But the feelings were real. Working beside her every day while hiding those emotions made it emotionally exhausting. Mary once joked, "It was a terrible waste," and Dick later admitted he agreed. It wasn't hate, but it was pain and regret that never left him. Rosemary, the forgotten star. Rosemary was a comedy legend and expected to be the female lead. But as Mary became the breakout star, Rose felt pushed aside. Her role shrank, her lines got fewer, and she felt invisible. Even worse, the show's creator, Carl Reiner, once told her, "They just prefer her legs," trying to joke. But it hurt. Dick admired Rose deeply, but her anger and sadness grew. They were once friends. That friendship quietly faded into cold distance. Phil Ericson, the partner who vanished. Before he was famous, Dick was part of a silent comedy act called the Merry Mutes with Phil Ericson. They were close, performing nightly, building something special. Then one day, Phil quit without warning. No fight, no goodbye, he just disappeared. Dick felt abandoned. That silent exit hit harder than any loud fight. It was his first heartbreak in show business. Carl Reiner, the mentor who held him back. Carl Reiner gave Dick his big break by creating the Dick Van Dyke Show. But over time, Dick felt like he was just a guest on his own show. He had ideas but wasn't heard. Later, when they tried to work together again on a new show, it failed. Dick always respected Carl, but quietly resented how little creative freedom he had. Walt Disney, the legend who let him fall. Walt Disney cast Dick in Mary Poppins, but the experience wasn't all magic. Dick's accent in the film was mocked for years, and no one helped him. His coach was Irish, not Cockney. Even worse, Walt never defended him when critics laughed. Dick had taken the role for free because he believed in it, but when the jokes came, he stood alone. Himself, the man he couldn't forgive. Fame changed Dick. He struggled with drinking, had affairs, and hurt people he loved. He checked into rehab in the 1970s but carried guilt for decades. Of all the people he hated, the one he struggled with most was himself, for losing control, for living a lie, for letting fame eat away at his soul. Now at 99, Dick Van Dyke is still standing, but his biggest battles were never on stage. They were behind closed doors, with love, loss, and the cost of success.